Gallery Experience. Hidden Stories Behind Art. Episode 2. Why some paintings are never allowed to leave a museum. Imagine seeing a painting in a museum and thinking, I wonder who owns this? The answer may surprise you. Sometimes the museum doesn't own the painting at all. It may belong to a private collector. It may be on loan from another museum. It may have been donated temporarily. Or it may be part of a collection that has been carefully protected for generations. But there are also paintings that museums are extremely reluctant to let travel. Why? Because once a fragile artwork leaves its carefully controlled environment, something can go wrong. A painting can be damaged during transportation. Humidity can change. Temperature can change. Vibrations can affect the canvas. Light can damage pigments. A frame can be damaged. And even a small accident can have enormous consequences when the artwork is irreplaceable. Think about a painting that is hundreds of years old. The canvas has survived wars, changes in climate, different buildings, different owners, perhaps even previous restorations. It may already be fragile. Moving it from one museum to another isn't like putting a picture into a cardboard box. It requires planning, specialized transportation, careful packing, security, climate control, insurance, and trained professionals. Sometimes the journey itself can take weeks to prepare. So why move it at all? Because museums cooperate. A museum in one country may organize an exhibition about a particular artist. It may want to borrow important works from museums around the world. Another museum may have exactly the painting they need. A loan can create an extraordinary exhibition. Visitors can see artworks that normally live thousands of miles apart. But not every museum says yes. Some artworks are simply too fragile. Others may be too valuable. Some may have restrictions placed on them by the donor. And sometimes the museum itself decides that the risk is too great. Imagine a painting that is considered one of the most important objects in a collection. If something happened to it during transportation, there may be no replacement. You cannot simply order another one. There is only one original. That is why museum conservators take these decisions very seriously. Now let's talk about something most visitors never see. Before a painting can travel, specialists may examine it carefully. They look for weaknesses. Is the paint lifting? Is the canvas unstable? Is the frame strong enough? Has the painting been restored before? Are there cracks? Could vibration cause damage? What kind of packaging does it need? Even the route can matter. The museum may consider weather conditions, air transportation, road transportation, security,
handlingsprocedures,
and the destination itself. Where will the painting be displayed? What are the temperature and humidity conditions? How much light will it receive? How long will it remain there? These details matter because artwork can be surprisingly sensitive. A visitor might walk into a gallery and see a beautiful painting hanging peacefully on the wall. What they don't see is the enormous amount of care happening behind the scenes to keep it safe. And sometimes the museum decides, no, this painting is staying here. That decision can be disappointing for another museum. But preservation comes first. After all, museums aren't simply places that display beautiful objects. They are also responsible for protecting cultural heritage. Their job is not only to show the artwork today. They must think about 50 years from now, 100 years from now, perhaps 500 years from now. That changes the way they make decisions. A museum may ask, can we safely display this? But it may also ask, will displaying it today shorten its life? That is a difficult question, because every exhibition exposes artwork to some degree of risk. Light can cause fading. Handling creates risk. Transportation creates risk. Even hanging and removing a painting creates risk. So museums have to balance access with preservation. People want to see the artwork, but the artwork also needs protection. This creates a fascinating contradiction. The public wants access. The museum wants preservation. Both goals are important. Now imagine a painting that is too fragile to travel. How can people outside the museum see it? Technology can help. High-resolution photography, digital exhibitions,
virtual tour,
scientific imaging, online collections. These technologies allow people to study artworks without physically moving them. Of course, seeing a digital image is not the same as standing in front of the original. The scale is different. The texture is different. The surface is different. You cannot experience the actual physical presence of the object in exactly the same way. But technology can make art accessible to people who may never have the opportunity to travel to the museum. There is another reason some artworks rarely leave their institutions: ownership restrictions. When a person donates a painting to a museum, the donation may come with conditions. The donor might specify how the artwork should be displayed. They may require that it remain in a particular collection. They may place restrictions on lending. These conditions can sometimes influence what the museum is allowed to do. This is why the paperwork behind an artwork can be almost as important as the artwork itself. A museum collection is not simply a room full of paintings. It is a network of legal agreements, historical records, conservation decisions, and responsibilities. And then there are paintings that museums simply cannot risk losing. Imagine an artwork that represents an entire period of history. It may be one of the few surviving examples of a particular artistic tradition. It may have enormous cultural significance. If it were damaged beyond repair, something irreplaceable could disappear. The museum becomes a kind of guardian, not the ultimate owner in the emotional sense, but a caretaker for future generations. This changes how we should think about museums. When you stand in front of a painting, you may think, "This belongs to the museum." But perhaps a better way to think about it is, the museum is taking care of this for all of us. The painting existed before us, and ideally it will exist after us. Our responsibility is to make sure it survives. So the next time you visit a museum and see a painting that has been hanging there for decades, remember something. That painting may have traveled thousands of miles before reaching the museum. It may have changed owners. It may have survived war or political upheaval. It may have been restored. It may have disappeared from public view. And now it is sitting quietly in front of you. You may spend 30 seconds looking at it. But behind those 30 seconds may be centuries of history. And perhaps that is why some paintings are never allowed to leave. Not because the museum doesn't want people to see them, but because the museum wants people 100 years from now to have the chance to see them too. The painting is not simply an object. It is a piece of history. And sometimes protecting history means knowing when not to move it. This is the hidden stories behind art.